With this practice self-check 7.30 isPalindrome, we're going to write a method called isPalindrome. So let's write a skeleton of this first. We'll do a public isPalindrome, and we don't know its parameters yet, but we'll get to that in a second. It accepts an array of strings. So we know we are going to have type string, and we are going to call this ARR as its argument, and returns true if that array is a palindrome, which means it reads the same forwards and backwards, and false if not. So that we know it's going to return a boolean, since it's either true or false. Now what we're going to do is we're going to compare this first index to this last index, and so on and so forth. Now if we have something in the middle like this, we don't need to worry about that because these three are equal and these three are equal as well. So what we're going to do is, if we are given an odd length like this, we're just going to subtract the, we can just divide the length by 2 actually. And the reason why we don't have to subtract 1 from this, because there is 7 here. The reason why we don't have to do this is because if we divide by 2, if we are using integers, then it's just going to round down. So 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, but it's going to give us 3. So we're only going to be looking at 3 anyways. We're going to want to store the back so that we can look at it when we compare the first one to this back one. So let's make a variable called an integer that stores the back index of this. So what we can do is do int back index, and we'll set this equal to the array.length minus 1. And the reason why it's minus 1 is because the length, or the index, is the array length minus 1. We're going to have a for loop because we want to run through all of this, but divided by 2. So for, we'll do int a is equal to 0, and we want to run this as long as a is less than our arr.length. So it's less than the array length divided by 2, and then we just have our a++. Inside of our for loop, we are going to want to have an if statement. Inside of our if statement, we're simply going to check if this front is the same thing as our back. And then when this increments a is equal to 1, we're going to check if this is the same as this. So we're also going to have something that decrements our back index. If our ARR at our 8th index does not equal to ARR, and then we have our back index, we are immediately going to return false. And if we return false, it's going to be pretty simple. We can just write return false. So whenever we hit something that's not equal, so if this is not equal to this, or if this is not equal to this, we automatically return false. We're going to want to decrement our back index every single time this runs. So we'll do back index minus minus. That way, if we don't return false, we are just going to go through our for loop still, decrement this, and compare it to the next one. We can close off this for loop. Now, if we never return false, we are going to want to return true. We can end this function, press submit, and we passed 6 out of 6 tests. So that's how we would do the self-check exercise, and this is the code for it.